First of all, we'd like to thank everybody for coming out on such short notice. On behalf of the 49ers, I just want to say that the behavior that was exhibited by a small number of people on Saturday night is not acceptable to the San Francisco 49ers or the city of San Francisco. We've had a great relationship with the city of San Francisco. We've had a great relationship with this community. And despite one-off events on Saturday, this has been a great place to watch football games, and this has been a great community to be a part of. And we want to continue to make sure that we're part of this community in a positive way. And the degenerate behavior that happened on Saturday is not going to be tolerated. If that means we need to make the business decision to not sell a ticket to somebody that's going to be there and impact negatively the fan experience and the game experience that people love and cherish at Candlestick, then that's something that we are going to do. We are not going to allow this type of behavior to happen at our football games. And I'm happy to be here with Mayor Lee and Chief Sir and Jim Mercurio from my team to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered and you have an opportunity to hear from all of us what we're going to do. And it's very important when we look at this, you know, this is a game where you have a rivalry situation, and unfortunately you have the worst segment from a very small segment from both fan bases that comes and brings about this type of an event. And it's our belief that we should recommend to the NFL that this game is at least postponed for some period of time. And we're going to continue to work with the NFL. We're going to continue to work with the Raiders to make sure that we have the right decision and we make sure that everybody at a 49ers game going forward has the experience that they deserve. So I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Lee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Jed York and his team and the management of his team in working closely with the city. When we were first observing these horrible incidences, and we were both mutually looking at it, so we were communicating, we immediately got in touch with our police chief, Chief Sir, who's here today, and also with Phil Ginsberg, our Rec and Park Director. And we've been on the communications very constantly since those times. And as all of you have viewed, these were very horrible incidences, and ones that not only do we need to express our very, very strong abhorrence to, but that we need to go forward and take steps to prevent them. And so we immediately have been working, our staffs, with the police chief and the security team on the 49ers have been working specifically on ideas to make sure that we can implement it. Not only is there a great level of intolerance for these kinds of activities, but steps need to be taken to make sure that people know that they will be caught and prosecuted for these violent acts. And what we have to do is to prevent them. So we're going to be emphasizing things like early texting and emphasizing to all the fan base who arrive here that they ought to, if they observe anything that may even make them uncomfortable, that they feel and they should feel comfortable in texting that and getting the security, both police and or the on-site security, wherever they may be, to be interveners immediately to see that their safety is adhered to, because the public safety is our #1 concern at these games, and they are here to be enjoyed by the families and the kids and the responsible adults that are here. And we want to make sure that there's more information shared to prevent these things from happening. There'll be focus on alcohol management and making sure, as we announced today, some steps will be taken to do that. There'll be more accountability with respect to season ticket holders who may not be paying attention to whom they provide their tickets to and their seats to. And that has to be a higher level of accountability. We're looking at all these aspects in cooperation with the 49ers to make sure both in the stadium as well as around the stadium is at a higher level of attention and that people work together to prevent this. That is how other cities have approached these kinds of challenges, is working at a higher level of cooperation, even though we know that for the most part, the games here at Candlestick have been fairly safe, and that there is, as of this week, an aberration to that. And I've asked the chief to personally attend this Saturday's upcoming game to give me even more focus on what we can do to help make these games even more safe. And we'll be announcing, well, the chief will be there for that as well. And we'll be going into a lot more details. And of course, I want to let the chief have an opportunity to explain what we've been discussing and the specific steps going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. York. I want to emphasize again that coming to a 49er game is a family event. It's as much fun as I've ever had, and I've been coming out here my whole life with my kids, family, friends. I encourage everybody to come out, and Saturday night will be no different. Last Saturday night was different. It was an aberration. And to that fact, let me just give you some numbers from last Saturday's game. There was approximately 47,000 people in attendance. That's about a third less than a regular season game. The game started off with 10% more officers, and as the game deteriorated as early as the second quarter, 30% more officers were added. So as the game progressed, there were 40% more San Francisco police officers assigned to Saturday night's game as any other game of the regular season. This is in addition to 49er security, which we have a tremendous working relationship in making this stadium as fan-friendly as any stadium in the league. By Saturday night's end, in addition to the more serious incidents that have been reported in the news, where on a typical game we make 1 to 2 criminal arrests, 12 had been made, 12 bookings. We normally issue no citations other than scalping. 8 were issued. The San Francisco Police Department documented 70 ejections. That's not counting those that were not allowed in or that were thrown out where we didn't have the time to document it because we were busy breaking up some other altercation. And that's not in addition to those made by CSC, Niner Security, and they usually exercise the right of ejection more than we do. There were 19 public intoxication arrests when normally we make 6 to 8. There were 90 medical calls for service, 40 were RockMed, 50 were ambulance calls for service. We normally get 7 to 10, including RockMed. 10 ambulance runs were made to the hospital, where normally in a regular season game we make 1 to 2. We doubled our radio traffic on events and incidents observed by officers and calls for service. And again, I have to emphasize, this was with a third as many people in attendance with 40% more officers. This game was like no other than I can remember, and I've been a Niner fan my whole life. I'll pass it back over to Mr. York.
I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to talk to Jim Mercurio, who, as I said earlier, heads up our stadium operations. He'll be able to go into details about what we've done and what we're going to do to make sure that Candlestick remains a safe, friendly place to watch a football game. Jim?
Jed, thanks. Chief, I appreciate your support also. Listen, I echo the response from the chief. Candlestick Park is and will be a safe place to come to a game. So all of you fans out there who are nervous about that, please don't be. The level of dedication that the 49ers have and the San Francisco Police Department is tremendous. Please, we ask you to come back. I do want to take a moment before I start going through a bunch of protocols and security initiatives that we have in place or we haven't had in place and what we'll continue to have in place or additions. But before I do that, with events like this, sometimes things get lost in the shuffle. And of all the officers, men and women for the San Francisco Police Department, the countless number of security guards that work this event for us day in and day out, they performed admirably, and in many cases, absolutely outstanding with what they had to deal with. In my 19 years of doing this, never, and I'll repeat, never, have I ever had to deal with the amount of calls for service, the amount of fights, the amount of behavior that is just absolutely not accepted at our stadium or, quite frankly, at any other sporting event across the country, and it won't be tolerated. So there's a little bit of a hats off, Chief, to you and your team, to all of our security, our ushers, our ticket takers, all of those that had to endure the behavior of people that really, in my opinion, shouldn't be called fans. To those of you that decide to come to our games, and it really doesn't matter what jersey you may be wearing or what hat you may wear or what team you may support, the behavior of Saturday night, it's not welcome. Don't come here. Absolutely you're not welcome. We're reviewing of cameras and any footage that we have on the internal camera system that we have here at Candlestick Park. All of it will be turned over to the San Francisco Police Department to do their thing with the support of the mayor's office to prosecute any of those individuals on film and on camera that behave the way that they have. And that includes any season ticket holders. Any of our season ticket holders that were caught, witnessed, viewed, whatever, acting the way they behaved on Saturday night, your tickets will be revoked, period. Those that you give your tickets to, we ask, this is where fans can help us. If you are giving your tickets to clients, business folks, those aren't the people that we're concerned about. It's the people you don't know who you're giving your tickets to. So we're going to ask that if you can support us in trying to help prevent those types of behaviors that took place at Candlestick Park on Saturday night. A couple other things I'd like to talk to you about: security moving forward, and some of the things that we actually do on a game-by-game basis. I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about the protocols that we have. Each game, after each game, and each game prior, we conduct what we call a stadium operations and security briefing and a pregame operations management conference, where we take every incident that we know about, we review it, we scrutinize it, whether there's things that we can do better, things we didn't know about. We'll continue to do those things and more. Moving forward, additional alcohol management teams will be in place roaming the parking lot and our stadiums, and our stadium. We'll review some of the deployment strategies that we've got in place with respect to police and private security that we have in the stadium and in the parking lot. We'll have much more visibility with respect to police vehicles and police staff in the parking lot, inside the stadium, including roving patrols on our restaurants, in our restrooms, and other areas where people tend to congregate. Tailgate parties and things that take place in the parking lot. Moving forward, if you come to the game to tailgate, and we want you to, we just need you to do it within the confines of the rules and regulations of the park. And that means 4 hours prior to kickoff is when you're going to be allowed inside the building, inside the stadium gates, in the parking lot. Any people that line up outside the gate with the assistance of the San Francisco Police Department will be asked to leave or will be cited. 4 hours prior to kickoff is when tailgating will be allowed. In terms of tailgating during the event and post-game, no longer. If you have a ticket to the game, you'll be allowed and encouraged to go inside the stadium. If you do not have a ticket to the game and you're out in the parking lot, you'll be asked to go home. If you have a ticket and are still remaining in the parking lot after kickoff, you'll be given a choice to come inside the building or you'll be asked to go home. Furthermore, with respect to parking lot patrols from the police department, additional roving will take place on foot, on bike, on motorcycle, and for this upcoming game and any other night game, to ensure lighting is not a problem. There was a question about lighting in the parking lot. We'll make sure that the lights we have in the parking lot are even brighter than what they've already been. Lastly, with the ticket responsibility, I think it's regular practice, and it has been for our operation and our team at the 49ers, to revoke season tickets. We started this program last year, and we'll be continuing that program with on a more robust basis. The mayor talked a little bit about texting. We have had our texting number, which is 69050. The keyword's bad fan. We encourage fans to utilize that. We also have a campaign about if you see something, say something. And that's with all types of behavior here at the ballpark, whether it's no smoking in the facility, whether it's bad behavior, whether it's any type of behavior that makes you as a fan uncomfortable in your seating section and the concourse or the parking lot. We encourage you to please use that information and text us so it gives us an opportunity to respond much quicker. Okay? I think if there's any other questions, or Chief, if you've got additional statements.
Thanks, Jim. Of course, we will support the additional measures put in by the 49ers. If you happen to be in line waiting to get into tailgate in those first 4 hours, there will be no public consumption of alcohol on city streets. There will be strict enforcement. Start your tailgate once you get inside the stadium parking lot, not outside, for fear of getting a ticket and/or arrested for having alcohol in and around a vehicle. There is no place for weapons at Candlestick Park or at any sporting event in San Francisco. It is unconscionable that anybody would bring a weapon anywhere near where there are going to be families that came to enjoy the game. Leave any such things at home. If you are found to be in possession of these, we will have station investigations team and we'll make those cases against you as swiftly as possible and refer them for the fullest prosecution we can get. We will support all the other initiatives that the 49ers have put in place, and there will be DUI checkpoints on the way home after every 49er game going forward. I urge people, when you leave the game, especially since alcohol sales cease in plenty of time, get in your car. There is no tailgating after the game. Go home.
With respect to the DUI checkpoints, I do want to make mention that for years we've had a designated driver program here at Candlestick and at all NFL facilities throughout for years. I encourage fans to make sure you have a designated driver. We have booths set up throughout the stadium that'll allow for certain amenities to be given to the driver so that we can ensure that we get people home safely. This is not about anything but keeping people safe here in our stadium, in this facility, and at our NFL games. The NFL Security Department has been absolutely critical in assisting us in a lot of these measures that we have been undertaking and will continue to undertake. But we certainly appreciate whatever help our season ticket holders can do, and other fans that buy single game tickets, to make sure that you understand what the rules and regulations of the stadium and the park are. There is a list, an extensive list on our website. We'll continue to educate our fans, whether season ticket holders or not, as to what those policies are. I absolutely would appreciate the support of our season ticket holders. Here's the thing, and to throw percentages out is a little difficult, but for the most part, 98% of the people that come to our events, certainly here in San Francisco, are good, hardworking citizens that come to the game to enjoy what we have to offer and what our product is about. It's really a handful of people that tend to ruin the experience for all of those 98%. So I extend an apology to all of you for some of the rules and regulations that have to be put in place that will affect you, but it's done so really in the name of safety and security for you, for your kids, for your family, for my family. Okay? So I do appreciate your support. Again, I do apologize. This is going to affect you, but the inconvenience, in our opinion, is well worth the safety and security of you and your families.
Thanks, Jim. We'll open it up for a few questions, so if I could just show.
Jay, could you elaborate on are you saying you're going to cancel the further exhibition games with the Raiders, or what about the season play? What you said about?
So with the preseason series, the NFL selects 3 of the games. We select 1. We've always selected the Chargers. That's the game that the 49ers schedule themselves. So of the 3 games that we do not have power over controlling and scheduling, our recommendation is going to be that we postpone this series between the 49ers and the Raiders.
For how long?
I think we want to make sure that we continue to work together with the Raiders, with SFPD, with NFL security, with the incidents and the increase in incidents over the last several years when those 2 teams have gotten together. You know, we want to make sure that that starts to die down, and there's no time frame. We want to make sure that we work together. And we've played the Raiders in preseason many times. We've done a lot of scrimmages with the Raiders. We've done a lot of things in the community. I think we're going to try to focus on maybe smaller scrimmages with the Raiders. That's our recommendation to the NFL.
Chief, sir, you mentioned the stats for typical games here in terms of arrests and ambulance runs. What about last year's regular season game against the Raiders? Were the numbers higher then? And the last time they played here preseason?
No, last year's regular season game, the numbers were lower. They were still higher than a regular game, but again, last year's game against the Raiders was played as a day game. Absent not playing this preseason game, I would strongly urge the league and anybody that would have an impact on that decision. I've discussed this with Mr. York and the mayor, that the game be played during the day.
And, but you said the numbers were higher than the typical regular season game in terms of arrests and medical calls.
Right. For instance, instead of having 70 ejections, we were in the mid-50s.
Why do you, it sounds like you were prepared for trouble. You had a lot more officers than you normally would, even though there was a third the size crowd. Why do you think it was this way?
Why did you expect there to be trouble? Why do you think it was?
Well, I mean, traditionally at nighttime, the games get a little bit more, the crowd's older, the kids don't come as much to the evening games, and preseason games against rivalry teams have been problematic in the past, but never to this degree. And again, we've happily guided 5 Super Bowl champions through, so we've had some very large, very happy, celebratory crowds here. So we're used to it. We know what we need to handle it, but nobody could have been prepared for what happened on Saturday night.
Can you talk a little bit about the investigation surrounding the individuals that were seriously injured, the gunshots and the guy that was beaten up?
Right. So I'm happy to report that all 3 victims are recovering in the hospital, reported just before this press conference to be in fair condition. We do have 1 person of interest in the shooting, but I can't report any further progress on that investigation until we get some tests back, other than that all the investigations are proceeding. And in addition to the informational line provided by Mr. Mercurio, anybody with any information on any acts of violence, especially the 3 serious incidents, if you could call TIP, TIP 411, or the SFPD tip line at 415-575-4444. We would appreciate any information. We know anecdotally through some of the stories that there were people around as suspects left the scene. We'd appreciate any and all information you could give us.
Also, there was some confusion about what they were wearing. There was an F the Niners t-shirt that it was either the victim or one of the assailants was wearing. Do you know anything about that?
I don't have any information on that right now.
Sir, Ann or Jed, there's a weekend game this weekend, 5 o'clock game. Are you planning to reschedule that? And what is the security plan for that game?
So we're not planning to reschedule the game. We're working, again, collaboratively with SFPD to make sure that we have the appropriate measures in place. The measures that we just went through, you'll see those implemented in this game, and we're going to continue to evaluate, like we do after every game, what can we do better? How do we make sure that this is a safe, fun environment for families, to make sure that families can come out here and enjoy Candlestick Park? And please, if you have anything to add.
I'll be at the game myself, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Chief, you mentioned the number of officers as far as percentages. Can you say the numbers that were there Saturday night?
No.
Do you know if the Raiders agree with your thoughts on maybe postponing these games or the matchup?
We've talked about that, and I'm going to talk to the league. This is our recommendation, and we're going to continue to talk to the Raiders about this as a proactive step to make sure that these incidents don't happen.
Our recommendation, meaning the 49ers?
The 49ers.
A lot of the tickets picked up were going pretty cheap on the internet. The mayor says something about season ticket holders being responsible. They're selling them on the internet, so that's one of the reasons why you got the crowd you got.
And that's exactly what we were focused on.
You want them not to sell on the internet?
Well, we need them to be responsible about to whom they sell to. I mean, that's where it is, and we need to hold them responsible as well to a large degree, because that's who we have, is the season ticket holders who might be dispersing their tickets. They need to pay attention to how their tickets are being exchanged, and we want to be forthright on that because we think it can make a difference with their help.
I might be able to follow up on that a little bit.
I would say one other thing. With a preseason game, you see a lot more tickets sold on the open market like that than you do for a regular season game.
Right.
And I think that's something that needs to be addressed as well going forward. When you have 2 preseason games at home, you generally don't have all of your regular season ticket holders coming to games. You know less of who's in the building, but I think I addressed this in my opening remarks. If it comes to me and it's between bringing in the wrong element in our stadium and not selling a ticket, the 49ers are going to choose to not sell that ticket.
There's also a element that the 49ers have called ticket exchange, which is a little bit more of a way to send or sell your tickets to another person. It gives us a little bit more of a control, so to speak. We understand that you can't make every single game or you're going to give them to other folks. But if there's a way to be a little bit more responsible about how you do that, there is an opportunity there through that service that we provide.
Why did you institute the program last year of revoking tickets, and how many did you end up revoking?
I think I'd have to look back at what the stats were, but I think it was upwards of 30 season tickets last year that were revoked. The reason we did it was because we started to see a trend in the behavior that is just unacceptable. So, listen, there's no question that we are a business, but to Jed's point, it will not be at the sake of safety to our fans, and so that's why we decided to make that adjustment. We're just not going to tolerate it. We don't want that kind of element here.
I'm sorry. Joe, there was at least one report, the NFL has already made the decision to postpone the preseason series. Can you speak to that? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that. We're going to continue to work with the NFL, and obviously you've heard our recommendation with talking to the San Francisco Police Department. We're going to continue to work collaboratively with them, not just for this game, but to make sure every game is safe. I want to make sure that you don't hear that this is just a Raiders issue. It's not. This is something that everybody needs to work on together. We need to make sure that every single time fans come to the stadium, they feel safe and welcome.
Chief, you've been coming to games
Longer than probably anybody in this room regularly. So on Saturday night, what did you see as so different from this crowd than all the others you've seen before? What did you see that was so different?
Well, I mean, just it appeared very early on that the people weren't here to see the game. They were more inclined to engage with other people in the crowd than just to enjoy the game. In my time at coming to 49er games, we came to watch the football game. So many of these changes that are being discussed will not impact those that just come to enjoy the game. And again, it's one of the best venues in the league to come and do just that.
Did you cut alcohol sales early this last game, and then can you elaborate more about alcohol management in the future?
Yeah, so we started, in most cases, alcohol is terminated at the end of the third quarter per the NFL best practices. We started to implement some of those a little earlier. In terms of alcohol management teams that we actually already have in place, you'll just see a lot more of them in different locations, in the players' parking lot, in the parking lot itself and inside the stadium itself, roaming throughout the stands, roaming throughout the stadium itself, on the concourses, and in the parking lot. So that'll be teams of whether it's off-duty law enforcement, whether it's undercover enforcement, whether it is San Francisco PD on foot, bikes, and on motorcycles. It'll be all of those.
We'll take one more question, and then we'll break up after that.
Have you had any conversations with the NFL about the nature of the preseason setup itself, in that a lot of season ticket holders don't go to these games, they dump the tickets, people give them away, frankly. Is that part of the problem here?
I said that earlier today, that this is one of the reasons why the NFL is looking at an 18-2 season as opposed to 16-4, because you just see a disinterest in the preseason. And the more disinterested you have, the more casual fans or fans, attendees that aren't even fans in general. They're just looking for an entertainment and a place to go and start trouble. That happens when you can go buy a ticket cheap on the internet because your regular season ticket holder isn't going to be there. So again, that's something that the NFL has worked on, and I think that they will continue to work on.
Okay. Thank you all. If you have interview requests for Jim or Jed, please come and see me. Christine's here from the mayor's office. She'll be able to assist you if you need to talk to the mayor. Thank you.